This book is for you if you are interested in business, or if you are in the process of building and growing an organization, and you find yourself searching for fundamental principles that can help create a truly great company, one that does not merely succeed for a moment, but endures over time. Rather than relying on personal opinions or short-term business trends, the ideas presented in this work are grounded in extensive research. Jim Collins and Jerry I. Porras studied a wide range of leading companies across many different industries. These were organizations that did not simply perform well for a brief period, but were able to survive from their early formation, pass through major challenges, withstand dramatic changes brought by time, and ultimately establish lasting values and a profound influence on the world around them. Many people believe that the growth and success of a company depend on being led by a small number of extraordinary leaders, individuals with superior qualities that others cannot learn or reach. If you hold this belief, then you are starting from a mistaken assumption. A helpful way to rethink this idea is to look beyond business and consider a broader historical question that many people have asked over time. How did the United States become such a strong and enduring nation? Interestingly, the answer was shaped very early, during the Constitutional Convention in 1787. At that moment, the most important questions were not about who would become president, who would serve as the leader, or who was the wisest individual in the room. Instead, the focus was on something much deeper. The delegates asked what kind of nation they wanted to build for the long term, which core principles would guide how the country operated, and what systems and processes would be needed to ensure capable presidents long after everyone present at the convention was gone. This shift in thinking offers an important lesson for anyone who wants to build a great company. If your goal is to create a strong and enduring organization, you must let go of the idea of constructing a company around a heroic or genius leader. The real challenge is not finding the perfect individual, but designing an organization that can thrive beyond any single person. At this point, some might argue that even if great companies are not built on great leaders, they must surely be built on great ideas. It seems logical to assume that the most successful companies began with brilliant concepts that set them apart from everyone else. Yet this, too, turns out to be another common misconception. What truly matters is recognizing that the company itself is the ultimate creation. You need to shift your perspective from seeing the company as a vehicle for a product to seeing the product as a vehicle for the company. When you equate a company with a single idea or a specific product, you place yourself in a fragile position. If that idea fails, you may abandon the company too easily. If the idea succeeds, you may cling to it for too long, even when changing circumstances demand a new direction. In both cases, the long-term health of the organization is put at risk. At the heart of every enduring organization lies what the authors describe as core ideology. In simple terms, core ideology is made up of two elements working together: core values and core purpose. This purpose goes beyond ordinary profit goals and speaks to a deeper reason for existence. Together, these elements form a set of guiding beliefs that help answer two fundamental questions. Who are we, and what do we exist to stand for? Within this framework, core values represent the essential and lasting principles of an organization. These are the most fundamental guidelines that shape behavior and decision-making. They should never be confused with corporate culture practices, management techniques, or operating procedures. Core values are meant to be preserved over time and should not be traded away for financial gain or short-term advantages. Alongside these values stands core purpose, which reflects the primary reason an organization exists, a reason that rises above the simple pursuit of profit. The book offers several clear examples to illustrate what core ideology looks like in practice. One example comes from the Declaration of Independence of the United States, which speaks of self-evident truths and describes a nation founded on liberty and dedicated to the principle that all people are created equal. This statement was not merely political language, but a clear expression of enduring values and purpose. Another example comes from Johnson & Johnson, whose guiding belief places service to customers first, followed by responsibility to employees and management, then service to the community, and finally responsibility to shareholders. The idea is that when all these responsibilities are fulfilled in the proper order, shareholders will ultimately receive fair returns. Ford offers another illustration through its emphasis on people as the source of the company's strength, products as the result of collective effort, profit as a necessary means and a measure of success, and honesty and integrity in business as essential principles. Similarly, IBM expressed its core ideology through a deep respect for every employee, a strong commitment to customer satisfaction, and a determination to follow through on commitments while striving to remain a leader in its field. An important insight emphasized in the book is that core ideology is not something you invent or create. Instead, it is something you discover. Not all successful or visionary companies clearly identified their core ideology from the very beginning. What truly matters when defining core values and purpose is having a clear understanding of why you do what you do and being committed to preserving those values even when, in certain situations, they may place the company at a competitive disadvantage. It is also important not to confuse core ideology with a statement about core ideology. Core values are meant to be practiced, to guide operations, and to inspire the organization, not merely to create distinction or exist as declarations. At the same time, care and honesty are required when identifying core values. If too many core values are defined, it becomes difficult to recognize what is truly fundamental, and it is easy to confuse core values with business practices, strategies, or cultural behaviors of the company. When building and shaping a company or any organization, what truly matters is creating concrete and visible mechanisms that are tightly connected to two ideas at the same time, preserving the core and stimulating progress. There must be a strong desire to move forward, along with practical ways to transform intentions and ambitions into real actions. Without this drive and these mechanisms, an organization will gradually become conservative and eventually be overtaken by others. Companies that have endured over time have applied several clear approaches to stimulate progress. One of the most powerful methods is the creation of big, ambitious, and challenging goals, often described as bold long-term objectives. This is considered the most effective mechanism for driving progress. What matters is that these goals are clear and compelling, and that they carry a sense of obligation. At their core, such goals must answer a few essential questions. Do they stimulate progress? Do they create motivation? Do they push people to strive beyond their current limits? A classic example can be seen in 1907, when Ford declared its goal of democratizing the automobile. The intention was to produce a car for the masses, priced low enough that anyone earning an average wage could afford to buy and use it. Another example comes from 1952, when Sony set a goal to produce a pocket-sized radio small enough to fit into a shirt pocket. At the time, this goal seemed nearly impossible. Yet Sony continued to pursue it persistently and eventually created the transistor radio, a product that later spread across markets around the world. Alongside ambitious goals, visionary companies also build corporate cultures with a strong sense of ritual. The foundation of such a culture is to preserve core ideology through concrete and effective means, translating core beliefs into visible mechanisms. These cultures establish clear standards and help cultivate a sense of pride, and sometimes even a strong sense of identity, within the organization. This ritual-based culture often emphasizes creativity, competitiveness, and a willingness to change. It is important not to confuse corporate culture itself with its outward expressions. Things like uniforms, logos, specific policies, detailed procedures, or organizational structure are only manifestations. For example, caring about employee well-being is a core cultural value, while serving tea and snacks at 10 in the morning is merely one expression of that value. In the same way, a strong customer service attitude represents culture, while smiling and maintaining a pleasant expression are simply visible behaviors. Another key practice is experimenting widely and retaining what works. Instead of running a business strictly according to a detailed and rigid strategic plan, organizations should define a small number of fundamental objectives and remain flexible in seizing any opportunity that helps achieve them. This approach is often described as purposeful evolution. Companies must be willing to try quickly and try many different methods, as long as they align with core ideology, even when outcomes cannot be predicted in advance. What matters most is taking action. When an attempt fails, adjustments are made and a different approach is chosen. The guiding principle here is a willingness to accept mistakes and to move forward in small steps through experimentation. Over time, this creates concrete mechanisms that encourage continuous evolution within the company. Throughout all experimentation, correction, and adjustment, the organization must always hold firmly to its core ideology. Another important factor in preserving core values is developing the management team from within the company. Promoting and nurturing leaders internally is one of the most effective ways to ensure that core values remain intact and deeply understood. Finally, companies built to last never allow themselves to be satisfied with past achievements. This is essential if they wish to avoid decline. They consistently invest with a long-term perspective in mind. Rather than waiting for market pressure or external forces to demand change, they pursue ongoing improvement, continuous self-renewal, and steady progress oriented toward the future and the long term. From a personal perspective, I believe that every individual, company, organization, or entity that exists in society carries certain core values. Because of that, the book's strong emphasis on discovering and preserving a company's core values stands out to me as an essential principle that never becomes outdated when it comes to building a strong and enduring organization. What also gives this book lasting credibility is the fact that its analysis and conclusions are not based on assumptions or personal opinions. Instead, they are grounded in the results of research conducted across hundreds of different companies. The authors carefully selected and compared leading organizations from a wide range of industries, which allows the insights in the book to rest on a solid and well-examined foundation rather than speculation.